Now, we have a question. On that higher plane of consciousness, you will never meet those who have lived and died. They have always been immortal, from the Master speaks. When a person passes from this experience, I mean the average human, they are no different after the experience of passing than they are here. And so, if you contact them, you will contact them as human beings. That's called the spiritualist plane or the psychic plane. And as a rule, if you do contact them, they'll probably tell you, do you remember when we visited grandmother together, or the red dress that I wore when we went to the picnic, or the day it rained? The conversation, if you have one, will be on that level. Or the case that I told about where a man was told to buy stock in a company. Now, there wasn't anything more noble about that or spiritual than if the man hadn't passed on. It was just all on the human level. And so it is that when you do, if you ever do make contact with a person who has passed on, as a rule, it will be someone who is just as human now as they were when they are on earth, and the nature of your contact will be that human. They may tell you not to go on vacation because there's going to be danger. They may warn you not to take this airplane trip because it's going to fall down. That's all on the human plane. They may advise you to buy stocks or sell stocks. They may advise you that a boom is coming or a depression is coming. They may tell you who's going to be the next president of the United States, because they may have a deeper knowledge of the activity of the mind. They may see deeper into the picture of the human mind. And so they may well tell you of not only events that are past, but events that are to come. But it will still be on the human level, just as you can find people on this level right now who can tell you of coming events. I remember in one of our class trips to Portland, meeting a man who was very psychic. And he said, "Oh, this will interest you." It will? Yes, in April, you're going to have a new source of income. He said, "Oh, it's not anything too large, but it's very nice, and you're going to welcome it, and it'll start in April." That's very nice. And you know what turned out to be? The tape department opened in April, and the first income came in the month of April from the tape department. So he was absolutely correct. See that? Now, he had no influence on making it happen, no influence on stopping it happening. He just saw a little ahead in time. Well, we have people who, Mr. Baruch, who knows when the stock market's going to jump up or down intuitively. There are people who know when cotton is going to jump up or down, or wheat is going to jump up or down. Intuitively, they know that. And if they're in the business, they develop that intuition. Well, they still have it if they pass on, and they'll find somebody back here to tell it to. Now, that's the human plane. Now we come to something entirely different. When an individual is spiritually illumined, and we'll go all the way back to whether it's Krishna, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Jesus, John, and in our modern days, I would include Mrs. Eddy. If you ever make contact with them, you will never, never hear anything of a human nature. Never. They'll not be concerned with you as a human or what you're doing as a human. They'll never recognize you as a human, and you won't know them as a human. But from them or through them, you will receive inspirational truth, spiritual truth. You may even hear, God is love. Or, know ye not, I am always with you. It'll always be something on that plane that you expect to receive from your teacher, or from your ideal of what a teacher should be. It'll never come down to the level of blaming you for yesterday's faults or talking to you about tomorrow. It'll always be just, I am with you, or trust the Spirit, or there is a spirit in man. Acknowledge him in all thy ways. And then you will know that you're not dealing with anybody on the human level, but someone who has left the human level and doesn't live in it. Now, there are three stages of man: the body, the mind, and the soul. The materialist lives in his body. He gets all his pleasures and all his pains out of his body. He gets his strength and his weakness in his body. He gets his health and his disease in his body. He gets his life and his death in his body. That's where he lives. All his sensations come from the body, good and bad. But then civilization evolves, and we come to the individual who lives in the mind. They study books. They study music. They study art. They study literature. They get their pains and their pleasures up there in the mind. And they get their health and their sickness there too. They commence to realize now that it isn't my body that's sick, it's my mind that's sick. If I clean my mind, I'll have a clean body. See that? And they begin then to exchange their old concepts of materiality for these higher ideas of right thinking and wrong thinking. See that? Now they're on a higher level. And they keep going on in that level up to the place where they recognize the impersonality of evil and of good. And they don't live in personalities anymore. They don't call you good or bad. They recognize now that good or bad is functioning and you're merely an instrument. Today it may be for good health and tomorrow for bad health. Today for friendship and tomorrow for hate. But they're no longer personalizing. They're not living in personal sense anymore. Now they're living on a higher plane that recognizes good and evil as impersonal. They're living on a higher plane where they recognize that health and disease isn't personal, has nothing to do with you. It's this universal belief. It's this universal concept of being. It's this subliminal perception that's continuously, invisibly, and inaudibly knocking at the door of your consciousness. That's why Mrs. Eddy was led to say, right, stand porter at the door of thought, admitting only such conclusions as you wish made manifest in your body. That's living on the mental level of life, where you can close your mind to error, and you can open your mind only to good, dwelling in it all the time. When you're at that level, you are in the mental level of life. If you pass on in the material state of being, even if you make contact with anyone, it'll only be on that level, and it'll be probably to tell them, do you remember when I fell down and hurt my leg, or when I wore a red dress or a red scarf? But if you pass on in the mental level, you may start communing about art, literature, or something else. As a matter of fact, an artist or a writer or somebody finds an instrument on this plane to become a hand for them and a brain. And that's where we have automatic writing, and that's where some of our artists and writers come from. Somebody on the other plane is using them. Yeah? Therefore, it isn't their own. They are just the tools, and they give you what's given to them. And very often you will find, and this is more especially true in the occult realm, where they have masters, or they have an Indian guide, or they have some other kind of a guide, that they're absolutely a nothingness. And this person over on the other side is using them and telling them what to do and what to write and what to teach and so forth, or even using their hand. They'll hold their hand still, and something will start to move it. It's called automatic writing. Now, there's automatic writing and there's automatic thinking. There's automatic painting. There's automatic poetry, in which an individual just listens and somebody over on the other side does the dictating. And virtually you become an automaton. You become a dictaphone. You become a tape recorder, you see, and you just take down that which comes through you. And all of this is on the mental level of life. Now, to the spiritually illumined, you pass out of both the physical sense of life and the mental, and you begin to live in what is called the soul. That's your true being, I. And when you are living in there, you have a mind and you have a body, and they are your instruments. You're not somebody else's instrument, but your mind and your body is your instrument, and you're living in the soul. That is why you can be in this world. You can enjoy good food, you can enjoy a nice automobile trip, you can enjoy a nice vacation, but they are absolutely unimportant, because it makes no difference what you're doing with the mind or body. You're only doing it as a sufferer to be so now. That's not your life at all. Your life is up here in the soul, and when you tabernacle, you're tabernacling with the soul of a person. You don't care about their mind, you don't care about their body, you don't care about their art, you don't care about their literature. You feel in them an integrity. You feel in them a soul. And even if they're not awake to it yet, you know it. You can feel it. You can see it. And that's why very often you say when you meet a person, that's a great soul, or this one has potentiality, or this one must be on the path. You have contacted their soul and recognized it. Sometimes you meet a child and you say, oh, that's an old soul. How do you know? All you've seen is the body. No. Your soul has perceived their soul. See that? That's what I meant last night about recognizing literature. How do you know when a book is truth and when it isn't? Now, if you had only your mind and your body, you'd never recognize truth. If you yourself haven't got a soul, I mean by that, if you haven't consciously gotten into your soul, you will no more recognize the message of truth than the college professor who said to me, oh, mysticism, there is no such thing. I know that that's only bunk. He knows that he's living in his brain. Right? Because he's living in his brain, he has no way of recognizing a soul. There's no way of recognizing a soul teaching or a Jesus Christ or a Buddha. That is why one Christian Science teacher said, oh, this Joel must be crazy. He uses the name Buddha, Jesus Christ, and Mrs. Eddy all on the same page. But you see, he's looking out from where? From his mind. He hasn't ever felt the soul. He talks about all Orientals as pagans. Right? He hasn't ever felt the soul. Doesn't know anything about it. Looks out from the mind. See that? So it is. That's what I referred to last night. Why are you following the infinite way? Why has it drawn you to itself? It's only another book. You, at your level, have felt something of its level, and you want to get up there. That's what's drawing you. You already feel it, and you know it's right, and you know it's ultimate, and you want to get there. That's exactly the way it is when you're living in the soul. You meet people, and you want to tabernacle with them. Those are the ones you want to be with. The Master says you leave your mother and your brother and your sister. And human relationships are nothing. Absolutely nothing. Who wants to be around a friend or a relative? Unless they're on this level. See that? And if that isn't your life, you're not interested then in your soul. You're interested in the other. This is not a blanket license to throw your mother in the ash can. No, but you can take care of your relatives financially or some other way without giving yourself to them. So it is with this. Let it never be said that a student of the infinite way neglects a human duty or a human obligation or tries to close their eyes, not only to their family, to their community. I've written this in the writings. If you are living in a community, you have a right to see that your Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts are supported or your something else. Because if you want to love your neighbor, you have to love them on their level too, as well as on yours. Because all of them can't reach yours. Therefore, you have to provide for them. But don't go out knocking on doors to raise funds for them. Don't give yourself to them. Give that level of them that they want. That's your check. See that? That's what they need. That's what they want, because that means life and death to them. And they can get 1,000 people in the neighborhood to do that work. But you can't be spared from living in your soul, because you are the one that makes all that unnecessary eventually. You're the one that's ultimately going to make it possible for them to do away with benevolences. Because such a high state of government is going to evolve in your soul that when men adopt it, they won't need charities anymore. Remember that eventually you are rising above living in your body or living in your mind. And if you be lifted up, you'll draw all those others with you. But you'll never, if you come down to living in their bodies and in their minds, you'll never raise them up out of them. So, never attempt to reach masters on the other planes. Never attempt to reach any consciousness but your own. Your own is infinite. And that's the only one you have to contact, is your own. It may be that in contacting your own, it draws to you some temporary teacher on this plane or some other plane. But it won't be a man or woman who will give you human advice. It will be a state of spiritual consciousness that will illumine you with truth. Never be any harm if you contact Jesus Christ, only don't try to. Don't try to. That may not be your teacher. You may be wasting a whole lifetime. Contact your own soul. Just close your eyes and go within and realize the Father within me, He doeth the works. I and my Father are one. All that the Father hath is mine. I am about my Father's business. God is my teacher. God instructs. God illumines. God leads, guides, and directs. And where is God closer to me than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, and I need be satisfied with nothing less than God. Then, of course, God may appear to us as the consciousness of Jesus Christ, because God is the consciousness of Jesus Christ. God may appear as the consciousness of Buddha or Lao Tzu or Shankara or John, because God is the consciousness of those individuals, and they are not two, they're only one, appearing to us as. And so it is that you, when you go within and you say, I'm absolutely pure in my desires. I want nothing but God, the realization of God, the experience of God, God contact. You may be picked right up and put down in an infinite way class. Because that is the level of God appearing to you as. See that? Now, you can count on it most assuredly when you want no side trappings. When you seek the kingdom of God within your own being, then it can appear to you as your teacher, it can appear to you as the book, it can appear to you as any form. But you always know when it's right. It won't waste any time talking to you about human things. It will only speak to you divinely of spiritual things, of spiritual impulses. That answers that.